In a world where every experience, customer, employee, or partner, is being reshaped by technology, the real difference comes from keeping people at the heart of change. This conversation between leaders of TP in Greece and Canon EMEA brings together two organizations united by shared values and a vision for people-led transformation. We will explore how leadership, innovation, and inclusion come together to shape better experiences and a more human future.
Good morning from TP Greece. I'm so happy that we are together today. Andy, thanks for joining this interesting discussion.
Good morning, Charlotte, and thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about a lot of interesting topics like women in leadership, but also all the strategy around Canon. One of the first questions I really want to ask you is that Canon is so much known about integrating inclusion into your strategy. And I know that you are going through a lot in the strategy right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have this inclusion part of your service delivery and everything that you are going through right now. And I want to hear a little bit more about what is going on and some example of the leaderships.
Yes, interesting question, actually a very relevant question for us. Our industry and our business is going through a lot of changes. And as part of the team where we do customer service, this is very tangible. And there's a lot of big changes that are happening. So, for example, we used to be a very field service oriented business with engineers going to the customers with the screwdrivers to repair devices. And this is changing. We move to more remote resolution topics. We move to more IT skills that our employees need. But also empathy, in a way, in customer service becomes much more important because our customers are evolving and we are supporting their business. And all of these business changes we do kind of support to have a more inclusive leadership because the roles we need are changing. And at the same time, I see that having a more inclusive leadership team is helping us to drive these changes. So this really is going hand in hand with each other and is kind of a natural evolution that we are going through as an organization.
Nice. Interesting. Can you maybe give me some, what is the percentage of women that you have in your team right now?
Depends a bit on how you measure that. So if I look at my direct reports as a starting point, for example, I have 2 women and 5 men currently.
Good.
So not fully balanced, but we're making progress. Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah. I also have a question for you because I think at TP you go through similar changes as we do. Changes where you bring together human experience and technology evolutions. What is your approach to engage your employees so they're not just becoming users of new technologies, but really agents of change to drive this change in the organization?
Thank you. When we talk about technology, we're going to say this magic word everybody's talking about, which is AI, right? So I think we are focused into 2 really important pillars. And one is the upskilling, really training the people and how do we get ready. And the second one is the engagement. But let me talk about the place we are in today. So this is the Innovation Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why we created the Innovation Lounge is mainly for our teams as well. So this is really a place where the people will be able to come hands-on and try some of those technology. Because you know what, Andy, we are from the ones in TP that really believe that any kind of innovation only makes sense if they are here to support the team and not actually to replace them. People can go play hands-on with all the solutions and really see that that's going to make my job easier to deliver. I'm going to be way more successful in my current role rather than seeing AI replacing me.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece is really on training the people right now to go through this transformation, as you said, but also our partners.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also a place where we design together what is the customer journey of tomorrow, and at which point of all this customer journey we should have technology, and at which point we should have technology with human to deliver the best of the services. So it's really, really those two pillars on how do we prepare the learning and we let the fears away, because there is a huge level of uncertainty when we are talking about technology right now across the organization, not only about the frontliners, but if you talk to someone in the finance team, they are like, okay, what is AI going to do for me? Not only the frontline, but the marketing teams as well. It's everybody across an organization today that really needs to see what innovations can bring to their day-to-day.
Very interesting, your approach that you're taking to expose all your employees to these new technologies. How does that influence your approach on diversity in your organization? Do you feel that's supportive? That's a key question for me as well.
I think it's a great question. And as a strategy, we see the technology and AI transformation going through all the companies. So it includes diversity. Mm-hmm. There is something that really is on the back of my hand, and I'm really, really careful of, is making sure that all the technology doesn't left a piece of the female leaders or the female pieces behind, because they are maybe less tech, as we are talking about. So we are really careful on it. But I'm going to tell you something even more important. What worries me is not only the technology, is also the work from home model sometimes for women on the leadership. How do we make sure that we have more next generation of leaders? And I think that one of the topic is how present you are and how visible you are.
Yeah.
And the whole remote topic is something that I have in mind always. I think AI is going to close a lot of gaps when it comes to education, upskilling. As an organization, everybody is actually equal. So we are eager to make sure that everybody has the upskilling, despite the experience that you had. And I think that's going to be a really positive thing. But I am really careful on making sure that we give those equal opportunities and that we find better ways to bring the visibility that we need for some of the youngest female leaders that we are.
Practically in TP, what are the things you do to create visibility and opportunities for your female talents and female leaders to progress in the career?
Thank you for asking. I think it is something really important. And as a female leader as well, it's something that I personally really put a lot of energy and priorities on. It's not easy. So going back to what we said, it starts by making sure that at the entry level into this pyramid of being a company, we bring enough females into the organization, which today we have like 51% of the company is female. However, we still see that going up on the pyramid, despite the fact that the KPIs are still good. We see that 51 dropping to a 47% depending on the role, which is still quite high, but it's something that we look at it. So how do we do that? Visibility. There is something that we discuss at all the levels of the pyramid on who are the future talents and where do we need to invest. Then we have this TP Women Network that you were generally part of one of those events. And thank you so much. It is so important that we have more and more leaders, male leaders, that come and talk about diversity in general, which I agree with you. It's not about female or male, which we still have a gap.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest, and we still need to keep on discussing on the female and male, but it's not only the obligation or the responsibilities of the organization, it's also some of the personal things that I want to touch out. But TP Women is helping us to have this voice and making sure that we can share some of the important story and inspiring things. Then we invest a lot of what we call the TP Foundation. So it goes across the company. We really want to set up the people and the management for success into their next position, let's say. So they do have this. And third, it's making sure that we kind of have this visibility that I was talking about. So this is really something that I always talk about within the organization, on making sure that all the leadership is really making sure that we give visibility to the people that work remotely.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that if you are not visible enough, you're going to be left a little behind. So you need to make that step,
Yes.
which is important.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely, I agree.
And the last thing I would say, it's on the technology piece that I was telling, it is really important that everyone in the organization, despite the background or despite where they're coming from, nationality, male, female, that everybody keep up with the technology coming, ourselves included.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, for sure.
it is,
Yes.
I think it's maybe once now that those importance on how do we act goes across the organization. The stress of keeping up with the technology is not only on the first layers.
Yeah. It's on everybody.
I see myself learning way more and pushing myself way more into education than I've ever been before.
Yeah.
So it's really now, despite gender and inclusion. Andy, can you give me some example of some of the initiatives that you also do into Canon?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interestingly, I think, quite similar topics that you mentioned also, what you're doing in TP. We have a series we call Women In, where we are on different events. So we had multiple Women in Service events, for example, where we bring female leaders and female employees in the service organization together. Service is a traditionally very male environment, and we need to recognize this is not always an easy environment for women, especially for women leaders. We have women service managers who are leading a team of 15 male engineers. And I mean, that's a bit of a challenge. And bringing these leaders together so they can share their experience is so valuable.
Sure.
Not just for them among each other, also for male leaders. So I personally try to attend these events as much as possible and encourage also other male leaders around me to do the same, because this is an amazing opportunity for us to learn. It's the very small things that can make a difference that from a male perspective, you wouldn't even think about unless someone tells you and realize that that's something that could make a difference here. So we have a strong Women in Business network as well, where we run different events and activities to predominantly create visibility. As you said, I think this is a starting point. We have a strong allies network. So it's about visibility, it's about learning from each other, but then it's also about promoting and pushing people a little bit. So one of the things that I try to encourage is in our organization to create visibility for younger talents. Again, based on what I said before, you can guess we are probably a bit a more conservative organization than others. And it might seem for young talents that join our company that is very difficult to make a career. Not because there's no opportunities, but it takes a long time. In average, people are a very long time working for Canon. We have so many people that are 15, 25, 35 years working for the company. And that might seem really complex for young talents. And we often see young people leave because they say, it's a great company, great culture, but I don't have the patience for what it needs. So what I try to do is create visibility. Sometimes we have strategic projects and say, let's pick a young talent, say, run that project. And you need to take some risks because sometimes that can go wrong, of course, but that's part of the learning journey for everybody. So that then creates an opportunity for these people to step up, show themselves, build their network in the company, which is very, very important. And that's, from my point of view, also a key element of this.
I think you touch upon two things I want to ask you more about. You said the magic words on taking risk.
Yeah.
Which bring in my mind this concept, which is not a concept of psychological safety. You actually build the environment for your team members, making sure they feel safe so they can take the risk, that taking the risk will actually put them in the situation to be successful in any kind of the project. It's so important in creating those opportunities.
Yes.
How do you believe that mentorship, when you're a mentor, you also give this psychological safety that is needed? And do you do any kind of mentorship program into Canon?
We absolutely do, yes. And I personally believe mentorship is key for everybody, for personal development, for again, if you're having a career progress, but even if it's not about the career progress, just for personal development. In an ideal world, I would feel almost every employee would have an opportunity to have a mentoring in one way or another. This can be as important as your direct line manager's relationship sometimes. So I'm a strong proponent for this. Encourage everybody all the time. I am also mentoring people. I had lots of phases where I had a mentor for myself. But again, it doesn't matter where you are, at what stage. It's so good to have people that create this, as you say, safety for you, where you can openly talk about some of your challenges and get a bit of an outside perspective on topics. And that can be a bit the push sometimes as well. So, yes.
We see that as well. We had just launched our first EMEA mentoring program through TP Women. So we got some of the youngest leaders and make sure that they could start and be part of this mentoring program. And this is something that took a lot of positive engagement from everybody on really having this safe place where they can discuss some of the struggles and some of maybe the strategy on moving on into the organization.
Do you also encourage young leaders to become mentors themselves? Because that is something that I started to do more and more, because I think as part of your leadership experience, becoming a mentor, this is another key milestone because you learn a completely different skill set. Is that something you're doing as well?
Yes, definitely. But we are very careful on structuring the mentors as well when they are into the younger fields. We say that it is needed to give a frame on what is mentorship.
Yes.
When you do have sometimes the experience, it's kind of natural and you know some of the struggles. But for the youngest leaders, when we were talking about mentorship, we needed to really have this structure to bring the outcome that is needed to actually have the positive impact that we were looking for.
Yes.
So we do, I would say, across the organization, but with a more preparation into the mentor side to get the perfect outcome, definitely. And I think it's bringing me to another thing that we often touch base with technology, changing the way we work. We're gonna have more and more of those younger generation that will actually handle a part of their teams being technology. So we are also having this new generation of leader that tomorrow will not only have humans in their teams, but bots or like AI and so on. And that brings us to what we believe the generations coming will need. Female or male, I think it goes across. And the first one is going back to emotional intelligence. So this is something that we have been training on because Andy, before, even for myself, I was not sure that you could train emotional intelligence. The good news is that we can actually train that. So it's not something that many times people believe that, okay, I do or I don't have emotional intelligence, but it's really a muscle that can be trained. So we train all the management teams on emotional intelligence because we believe that that's going to be one of the number one trait for the future leaderships. And the second one is really the flexibility and the education. So every organization, TP, has duty to upskill, but it starts from you. So that's also one of the message, like we can give you the frame and we're going to invest into your learnings. But being an eternal student starts from yourself. And I was telling you earlier, I am literally spending every day reading way more than remembering what I was doing at school. It's have been like the last 3 to 4 years where you to catch up with everything that is going on. You also need to go through this personal learning program which is also part of the leadership. I think it's important that we have those conversations on making sure that everybody understands that it's not only what Canon or TP is giving me, but it's also myself on how much I invest into my future and my leadership, and I keep up with everything around.
I could not agree more, yes.
I want to talk about DEI and the KPIs and the dashboard in general, just to close that topic of how do we actually check in an organization on the reporting pieces that sometimes it's, okay, is it just a checkbox that you need to check on the statistics or how do you do that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, no, very interesting. And I think, as always, measuring the relevant things is very, very important. And diversity in an organization is more than gender diversity, of course. And again, representing the service part of Canon's business, we are very stereotypical. We are very, very male. We have around 80% male population, and we're very overaged, I would say, in terms of the average age. You know,
no,
the
you're
average
still young.
age. I'm actually below the average of the organization. So but thank you. Our average age is pretty high. So for me, improving diversity is actually more than only gender diversity. I think it's as important to create room and space and a culture to attract young people, young talents, because we need that for our future. And to go back to the question, for that, we need to measure what is really important for us. So, of course, we measure average age and the evolution of the average age of the organization. We measure high-level gender-based KPIs. It's sometimes difficult to measure what we really should. So for me personally, it all starts with how we are recruiting people. And for that, it's about the image we present to the outside world, how you write your job ads. You mentioned before working from home, flexibility. All of these topics have an influence on who applies for the jobs you post. And traditionally, our challenge as a service organization is whenever we have a job ad, we get 98% male applications.
Okay.
Makes it very, very difficult. So that's the things we need to work on. But that's also the things that are very difficult to measure due to some privacy constraints we have here and there. So we don't always have the data, unfortunately, we'd like to see. What I do see when we look at this data is there is definitely a very strong link between diverse leadership and business performance. I mean, that is something that is clear. Not only, and I repeat that, gender diversity, it's any kind of diversity. And this, of course, this is not a direct link. It's not that a younger or a female leader is working harder. It's a bit more complex than that. But we see that teams with a higher degree of diversity and diverse leadership have a better change adoption, for example. So they're acting more agile, they are more reactive, and all of that definitely leads to a better business performance and also a better customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you just look at our team here in TP Greece for Canon, that's a tangible example of what the magic of diversity from a background, from a nationality perspective, from a language, from a culture, can come and put together. I think it's so important. And it's so much out of just controlling metrics. We are, especially in TP, we are all about numbers. And I think it's really important. So you can see, to your point, on starting from the recruitment. And that's also something that we really look at. So we make sure that we don't let anyone behind. And we bring this diversity from a recruitment perspective. But I so much agree with you that that's the magic way when everybody and all the background are together and you can challenge some of the decisions or some of the way doing it. You have so many markets.
Yes.
So many different culture, priorities. How do you put all that together into your strategy? What is important?
This is why I love my job, I have to say. I mean, the EMEA region is such a culturally diverse region, all these languages, all these cultures, so many countries. Plus, we are a Japanese company which adds another cultural element to it that is really interesting. And bringing all that together is so valuable for people. And I think as Canon overall, even on a global level, we pride ourselves in having a very strong company culture and having one culture for the company. And we see that. So it's not about in EMEA having 25 different cultures, each for their market. Of course, that is part of it. But the real value comes of bringing that together, because ultimately, as we become more diverse, our customers are as well. I mean, our customers have a very high degree of diversity, even though they are in local markets. We know that in Europe, this is changing rapidly. And to be relevant for our customers and provide a good customer experience, we need to be able to connect them where they are. And for that, we need to build this very diverse culture. I'm deeply convinced about that.
Very, very diverse and very human as well.
Absolutely, yes.
This is where, as well, what we were talking earlier on. Mm-hmm. Where do we strategically look at the data, and then where we decide that technology can be part of all the journey and should be part of the journey exclusively. Mm-hmm. But then where do we have this mix of AI and human together?
Exactly.
And at TP, it's what we call like the at TP AI and at TP EI. We really strongly believe that the perfect mix is the emotional intelligence with the artificial intelligence. And then by bringing this, you really give what we call these white glove services on, you remove the boring things from the people that serve, and then you really give them the space to connect with the customers and bring the best out of your brand.
Yes.
Today, if you want to be one of the premium brand, I think it's really still important to be there as human and connect, and making sure that technology just remove all the preparation, the anxiety of the people, so they can just concentrate on what is more important, which is creating connections.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And this is very much aligned with our values and our approach to the business and the market. Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Andy, you said something so interesting around the recruitment that I want to know more. Knowing that you have so many countries, so many markets, can you tell me more about the recruitment strategy?
Yes. As said, we have so many different markets, and especially in recruitment, the markets are completely different, of course. So to some extent, this is for us a very local approach, and we try very different things in different markets based on local needs, but try to more and more create a central umbrella in terms of employer branding over that, in terms of some core values and storytelling. And we have amazing examples of things that work in some countries. So one example I would like to mention is in South Africa, where we a couple of years ago started a trainee program for young female engineers, so really technical roles. And there was a group of young women that we brought in with amazing success. They were trained on the job. This was an onboarding program. And we did similar programs, not specifically focused on females in other countries. And compared with other programs, the retention rate at the end of the program was substantially higher. So how many of them stayed with the company after the program, but also that the feedback from customers, the engagement, the motivation they brought to the job, and as a result, the customer experience and the impact on the overall team. I mean, absolutely inspiring to see this.
I think it's so great. Do you plan on expanding that?
Yes, this is for us very local. So we're constantly with the countries reviewing where do we have opportunities to do that. Often, to be fair, this then goes back to education. So one of the topics we're looking at a lot is STEM education. So how can we support the storytelling for girls to move into more technical education? Because that's the starting point, of course, for this.
Amazing.
One example that we were doing in terms of education for girls, so there's in the UK an organization called STEMettes, which is working with schools to support girls and non-binary, starting very early, opening the door to STEM-based education and show them opportunities in more technical and engineering roles. And we were partnering and had an event in earlier this year where a whole group of girls, various age, came in. For a full day, we told them about Canon, what Canon is doing, and it was almost a hackathon type event. We put them in project teams where they had to come up with ideas for how to evolve certain parts of our business, and then there was a jury where they presented. It was an amazing event. And again, these things don't change the reality overnight, but it helps to drive externally and internally the culture change we need to do.
Yeah, and it's inspiring. I mean, that's so important that we have those kind of messages. If you can recall the event that we did for the TP Women, where we had the MEFOFO organization coming, for which this is what they are doing. They actually take care of education of girls across the globe. And that's a perfect example.
Exactly. Yes.
Andy, thank you so much for being this inspiration, for sending this so powerful message and sharing your experience. Thank you for being here today in Tipping Greece.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. And I can only give that back. It's always very inspiring to meet with you, to have these events, these conversations, talking about role model. What better role model than you for female leaders? So thank you for having me here and for this opportunity.